Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Mr. Lopez. We are in week 7 of our ELD classes. Hopefully, you guys had a good break um, and everyone's safe and sound. Today, we're going to expand on last week's lesson. So, sorry, I think I turned it off right here. So, I'm going to expand on last week's lesson, which, if you guys remember, focused on talking about the city of Atlantis with identifying important details, okay? So let's go ahead and get into it. I'm gonna turn my camera off, focus on the text, and let's jump into it. All right, again, hopefully you guys are finding all the links and assignments in the right places. As you can see, you're gonna wanna click on this. This is gonna be a PowerPoint lesson. So if you can, go ahead and log in. Click on here, make sure you sign in with your Gmail account, okay? So, what's going to be our lesson for this week? We're going to be looking at making inferences in poetry. So, as you guys know, poetry is, uh, poetry is one of my favorite types of reading and writing. I mean, it's something that we know all too well, it's music in a way. Lyrics in any song that you can think of could be considered poetry. We're going to read a poem today. This is a poem written about the city of Atlantis. And we're going to look at some of the figurative language and the imagery that she uses. And then we're going to try to focus on the theme of the poem. Okay? So, what are our objectives for this week? Well, we're going to read a short poem. It's an Irish poet in which she's going to give her own personal opinion about the city of Atlantis. Okay? You guys remember last week, the city of Atlantis was um, described by Plato in a few places. And since then, scholars have tried to find the city or locate where it was in the world. And I think, if you watch the documentary and if you even look online and watch some of your own, you'll see that they've found maybe a few artifacts that could show that it existed, but there's no definitive proof, right? Um, so we're going to read a poem that she expresses her opinion. After we do so, we're going to write a short response summarizing the poem and what we believe the author is trying to convey, right? So she's giving her opinion in this poem, and we're going to try to figure out what that is. And our thinking question for the week: the city of Atlantis has obviously influenced many writers. Can you think of another fictional place that has also intrigued scholars to this day? I mean, is is there another place, another famous city in the world even, um, that people say existed, but there's no definitive proof? And we'll talk about that here in a little while. Okay, so this is going to be your third slide for this week. But based on the previous week's lesson, do you believe the famous city of Atlantis actually existed, or was it just simply a made-up story? So make sure you type in your response here. Just give me your opinion. What do you think? Did it happen? Did it exist? Did it not? What happened to it? As you can see here, It's a very unique city. It's also what makes it so popular, the way that it was created physically. Um, also, be sure to tell me why you believe so. Okay. So if you don't think you think it's a made up story, tell me why. All right. So make sure you type in your responses here before you move on to the next slide. Okay. Okay. So what are we going to be doing this week? Well, the first thing we're going to do is preview the vocabulary. Okay. Just like we have every other week before, we read something. We're going to look at a few words to determine the meaning and get an understanding of what they mean. And these three words will be in the poem that we're going to read. So after we do that, step two, we're going to read Atlantis, a lost sonnet. And we're going to examine, like I said before, some of the imagery and the figurative language that exists in the poem. And your final assignment for this week is going to be a little bit different than we've done in the past. As you may recall me stating at some point, this class is meant to improve our reading and our writing, but also to improve our listening and our speaking. So uh, all four of those components are important. The listening and speaking has been a little bit difficult to do online without meeting in person. You know, we can't have those discussions that we would normally have. So you guys will be responsible for recording a response using Flipgrid, and that's going to count as your writing slash activity for the week. Okay. All right, so let's take a look. Once you finish going through that PowerPoint, go ahead and come back to this, and you're going to scroll down to week 7 assignments. You're going to click on previewing vocabulary. Okay. So once you open that up, again, this is the same type of assignment that we've used in the past. Uh, we're going to look at 3 or 4 different parts for this. We're going to look at the word or phrase. Here we're going to fill in the definition, the dictionary definition. Here you're going to fill in your definition. And then here you're going to find a picture, draw a picture, go online and copy one in here to show or to demonstrate what that definition is or what that word is, right? So let's take a look at this. Our word, 3 of our words are here. These are the words we're going to look at just to make sure we understand what they mean. First one is colonnades. The second one is sorrow. The third one is fable. So, colonnades, as you can see from this picture, what exactly do you think this word means, right? So for this one, you're going to want to go backwards. So you're going to describe here what you see in this picture, right? So I'm going to let you guys fill those in. That's going to be your assignment. Now for the dictionary definition, again, just a reminder, go back to our PowerPoint. There's some links on this page, right? If you look right here, this is a dictionary. If you click on it, it's a link. So you can actually type in the word and you can copy the definition here, right? Our second word is sorrow. So looking at this picture here, what would you say is being depicted here? Looks like maybe a boy, a young man, slouched over, his head's on the ground. Um, Again, I'm not going to give you the answer, but you can, in this box, you can describe in your own words what you think sorrow means, and then you can go back here and find the definition, right? Now, the third word, I gave you the definition for, and you'll be required to fill in the other two boxes, right? Fable. Fable is a short story that is usually about animals and that is intended to teach a lesson. Okay. So, um, if you stopped and thought about that, how many fables do you remember? I mean, a story about an animals that teaches a lesson. One of the stories that you can automatically think of, or most people could say they've heard or read it, is the story of the three little pigs. Right? It's a short story, right? It's about animals, and it teaches you a lesson, which we learn at the end of that one. So write your definition here and find a picture here, okay? So make sure you complete this before you start with the lesson for the week, right? Because we need to make sure we understand what these three words mean before we start reading the poem. Okay, so once we do that, let's go ahead and go back here. Go ahead and scroll up and find this link right here. It says Atlantis, a Lost Sonnet dash text. So we're going to click on that. This is going to be a link to the poem. Okay. So here we go. This is a poem, if you look on the right, by Evan Boland. She's one of Ireland's preeminent contemporary poets. She's the author of A Poet's Dublin and A Woman Without a Country. Wow, looks like she passed away earlier this year. So, okay, so this is the title. This is the dates that she was alive, right? Just in case you're wondering. And that's her name, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna read this and then we'll go back and I'll talk a little bit about it, point some things out, and then give you guys to read it, look at it on your own, and respond to the question. Atlantis, a lost sonnet. How on earth did it happen? I used to wonder. That a whole city, arches, pillars, colonnades, not to mention vehicles and animals, had all one fine day gone under. I mean, I said to myself, the world was small then. Surely a great city must have been missed. I miss our old city. White pepper, white pudding, you and I meeting under fan lights and low skies to go home in it. Maybe what really happened is this. The old fable makers searched hard for a word to convey that what is gone forever and never found it. And so, in the best traditions of where we come from, they gave their sorrow a name and drowned it. So, let's take a look at this. Now, when you read poetry, um, kind of have to look at it, every little piece of it, right? So if we start at the top, just looking at the title is called Atlantis, a Lost Sonnet. You don't know what this word means. Sonnet is a type of poem, it's a specific form of poetry that follows certain rules, like has to have 14 lines, no more, no less, and uh, certain rhyme schemes with specific type of sonnets. Shakespeare was famous for his. But why does she title it a lost sonnet? It's kind of interesting, right? We know the city was lost, so she's trying to kind of repeat that in the title. Now, if we go into the poem, she starts out with a question, right? This first section of this is what we call a stanza, right? A stanza is a section of lines. So this is one stanza. This is two, three, four, and five. So in our first stanza, it's one long question, right? You see, there's no period until the end. And she's asking, how on earth did it happen? I used to wonder that a whole city, arches, pillars, colonnades, not to mention vehicles and animals, had all one fine day gone under. So the speaker in this poem at the beginning is just asking a question, right? Where did it all go? What happened to all these things? And if we know from our vocabulary, uh, so she's talking about these look like huge columns, right? So it sounds like she's wondering what happened to the physical stuff, you know? What happened to the buildings? What happened to you know, the what they used to travel? What happened to the animals? We'd have bones, right? That would remain if the city did exist, there would be some type of bone buried under the ground. And moving on to the next stanza, I mean, I said to myself, the world was small then. Surely a great city must have been missed. So again, she asks another question. Um, I think it's interesting that she says the world was small then. Kind of think about, what do you think that means? Like, this was, well, according to Plato, this would have been thousands of years ago, yes, that the city existed. What makes the world small at that point? Was it small? What exactly is the author trying to say in that part? Surely a great city must have been missed. Now here's an interesting choice if you look at this third line in the second stanza. I miss our old city. White pepper, white pudding, you and I meeting under fan lights and low skies to go home in it. What's interesting about this line is her use of pronouns, right? So if we look, um, she uses this pronoun right here, I miss our. So look at pronouns. Which one, which one would that be? Here we go. It's going to be a possessive adjective. So we're looking at, I'm sorry, we're looking at the speaker who's talking about herself, right? She even says it here, you and I meeting under the fan lights. What do you think she means in this line? She misses our old city. Now, she wasn't alive to be in that city, right? So what exactly is she talking about here? She wasn't there. You weren't there either. She's but she's grouping you and her together as saying it's that city belonged to both of you. But it didn't, because we weren't alive then. So what do you think she's trying to say? As we keep going, maybe what really happened is this. The old fable makers searched hard for a word to convey that what is gone forever and never found him. So if we're looking at fable makers, so what's a fable? Go back to our vocab, the short story, right? Using animals to teach a lesson. So the makers, the people who created these fables, so writers, right? Uh, these old fable writers, makers, search for a word to convey that what is gone forever and never found it. This is probably one of the more important lines in the entire poem. So she's saying, she's giving a possibility to what happened, right? Because remember, we don't know what happened to the city. We don't even know if it existed. I mean, she's wondering herself if there was any, if it was even true. There's no proof, no physical proof. So she's giving in a possibility that these old tale, uh, these old fable makers, these people who come up with these tales, these stories over time, we're looking for a word to describe something that when it's gone, you can never find it, right? You can see this line is a little deeper than what it means. We're not talking about Atlantis so much anymore. It seems at this point, the author is using Atlantis more in a symbolic way to represent maybe something else or some other idea, right? And so, in the best traditions of where we come from, they gave their sorrow a name and drowned it. So, another interesting word choice here is to look at the pronouns. We look at they, right? It's another pronoun. Who who are we talking about here? Who's the they in this line? Is she talking about Atlanteans, the people of Atlantis? Is she talking about scholars? Is she talking about fable makers? I mean, who are the person she's referring to? And also, what does she mean by they gave their sorrow a name and drowned it? This is a very, you can see there's a lot of meaning packed into this last stanza, these last two stanzas, right? Um, if we go back to the beginning and look at the poem as a whole, again, she's wondering what happened to the city. You know, that's the question that this person seems to be struggling with. She doesn't know where it is, where it went. And then at the end, she maybe gives her opinion, right? She gives a solution, a possibility to what exactly happened to this lost city that has no physical trace of it ever existing, right? So take some time. That's just my uh, interpretation of some of these lines, right? When you read poetry, technically, there's no real right or wrong answer. There's just how we read it and understand it, how we interpret it. So maybe you agree with what I said, maybe you completely disagree, which is great. I mean, just kind of think about some of the things I mentioned. Make sure you look at the words, look up any other words you don't know. Uh, think about what is the author trying to convey in the whole poem, right? In the entire poem, what is the theme of this? So if we go back to our Google Classroom, if you go back, go down at the bottom, this is going to be our assignment for this week, okay? So you'll be required to respond verbally, okay? So let's take a look at this. When you are ready, so after you've read the poem, you're going to click on the following link below and log in with your Winfrey Gmail account. This is very important, otherwise you will not have access to the assignment. After doing so, please respond to the following question and record your response. Again, you must meet all the requirements for this recording in order to receive full credit. So, some of you are wondering what's Flipgrid? Well, if you click on here, you're going to join. This is going to come up. Again, make sure you join. You click here, you're going to join with your Winfrey Google account. Okay? It's going to come up to this. Yours is probably going to have you sign in. So you just type in your email, sign in, and it's not going to let me sign in because I'm the one that made it, right? But that's where it's going to go. Now, when you finish logging in, I'll show you through my end what it's going to look like. It's going to look a lot like this, okay? So this is going to be the topic, and you're going to respond. After reading the poem and thinking about some of the figurative language the author uses throughout, what do you think is the message of the poem? What idea or opinion is the author trying to express or convey? Please respond by recording at least a 30-second response in which you answer and explain why. So, what do you think is the message? What is she trying to say? That again, that is your opinion. It's your interpretation. Now, it's also important that you do the second part, which is explain why. Your response must be at least 30 seconds. So that gives you plenty of time to answer and explain yourself. Now you can go over 30 seconds, but it has to be a minimum of that to give me an adequate response, okay? If you look on the second part, if you do not do either and or fail to speak for the minimum amount of time, you will not receive full credit for this assignment. So you have to, don't just give me 2 words. What do you think the message of the poem is? She doesn't know where Atlantis is. Done. That is not a response. And you'll get a 0 for that. I didn't answer the question and I didn't explain myself. Also, no other student will see your response, just me. So just a reminder, no one's going to read your stuff. No one will see what you record. Using Flipgrid, if you've already used it in other classes, you guys know that you can record your like a video. You don't even have to do that. I don't have to see your face. That is up to you. All I need to do is hear your voice, okay? So if you don't want to show your face, you're more than welcome to hide it. Feel free to try as many times as you like, and until you get a recording that you like, okay? Okay, so that'll be your assignment for the week. When you finish, there should be a button over here towards the right. So when you click on it, yeah, if you click on it, when you're ready to turn it in, there should be an assignment over here that says turn in. It'll be a blue button. Make sure you click that to let me know you turned it in. But I'll be checking them, okay? All right. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this unit. I thought studying the city of Atlantis is interesting. Just some of the history and how people keep searching for this city that may or may not have existed, right? And if we go back to our thinking question, what are some other cities? There's quite a few, right? The lost city of gold, right? I believe it was Cortez who they that's discussed in history, where people have journals that they found about this city that was made completely of gold, and how this Spanish conquistador tried to, sail back and looked all over the world and looked for it and just couldn't find it. Um, that's another famous place that scholars aren't sure actually existed. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this unit. Again, make sure you go through these assignments in the order that I went through in the video to allow you to best respond and answer all of them, okay? Also, make sure, if you have not already, go back and respond to all of the assignments. Oh, one more thing. Before you record your Flipgrid, if you feel like this would be better, if you go to Stream, you go down at the bottom, you can create your account here, okay? You'll just click on this link, and it should allow you to create your Flipgrid account. If you want to create your Flipgrid account first and then come back and then do the reading or the recording by clicking here, then that is up to you. I think you're able to do both. You can create your account through here too. But if not, go back to the stream. Okay? All right. Hopefully you guys are doing well. Keep up the good work. Just a reminder, check your emails, send out important information every week. TELPAS begins in a few weeks. For those of you that don't know or remember, TELPAS is the test that we take from the state to see how much we've gotten better with our reading, writing, listening, and speaking. Okay? So we're going to take that here in a couple weeks. So make sure that you guys are completing these assignments, which are all intended to help get you to improve in all those areas. Okay? I may speak to some of you specifically a little bit more within the few weeks, but don't be scared or afraid that it's something that you did wrong. I just need to discuss some things more in depth with you. But all right, I hope you guys are doing well. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me, and I can respond in any way. Otherwise, I will see you guys next week. Hope y'all have a great weekend. Remember, we're off Monday. So enjoy your break, and I'll see you guys later. All right? Bye-bye.